how did I start? I mean, study geography and all of that. You must realize that Nigeria of the Abacha era, when the time I graduated, was a different Nigeria. I grew up, I came of age in the military era. And when you came out of university at that time, there were no multinationals aside from the oil companies. I did not study anything to do with oil. So your options were very limited in terms of what you could do. In fact, like most young people, I just wanted to get out of university and come to America. You know, but it never panned out that way because I'd been writing throughout my life. You know, I mean, I'd always put my thoughts, my pains, my experiences into words. And when I came out of the university as a youth copper, in fact, before I started work as a youth copper, I walked into a production house by accident with a friend of mine. And they were having a conversation about, you know, I mean, a media project they were going to do. And I tend to be very opinionated. I was, you know, I mean, when you are 20 what, when you're 22, 23, you think you know everything. You know, and so I was there telling all these 40-year-old men and, you know, women, you know, how they should do this and that. And, you know, one of them just said to me, you know what, why don't you go and write up an idea? And I appeared the next day with maybe like, what, 15 pages or something like that, you know, and they just threw me a gauntlet and I've never been able to resist the challenge. And so that was how I started, purely by accident. It was supposed to be on a holiday job or, you know, maybe an internship or youth service or something, but I just got caught. I've always loved the idea of telling stories. I got caught in this thing and I've been trying to escape it ever since.
Lagos has transformed significantly in the last few years, with the crime rate falling, new urban renewal projects underway, and improvements in environmental sanitation.
I think I have a high degree of a need to honor stories and honor. I love people. And when I see people, I want to draw them out. You know, I want to understand them and I want to understand their story. And in wanting to do that, oftentimes what you then want to end up doing is wanting to tell their story. I mean, it's always subjective because at the end of the day, you put all of that through your own prism. But Nigeria is a gorgeous country. I mean, people don't, when I say people say you're biased, but I'm not. I don't think I am. Well, there's some sort of bias. I'm a human being. But I am traveled enough and incidentally have bits and pieces of education in different parts of the world enough to be able to compare. The thing about Nigeria is just that energy. It's hard to define it. It's that, it's like when you listen to Fela's music, you know, it's there. It's that thumping energy. And that thing about the people being really, really one-on-one, very interesting, very nice. And the country and the people are photogenic. You know, there's something about the Nigerians that you want to capture, some rather elusive quality. So I've always wanted to tell those kind of stories, also because we are such misunderstood people. And if you are able to interpret the stories of such people in different forms, I mean, I like the way Chimamanda put it, then there's never a single story. If you can tell this multiplicity of stories in such a way that A, there's just more knowledge out there, B, there's probably more awareness and hopefully a little more understanding, then you'll be doing your work. So that's what drives me, I think.
I think that the media in Nigeria needs to become more authentic. You know, nobody will tell your story. It's time to stop aping other people and be ourselves and tell our stories with love, understanding, and intellect. Don't forget creativity, which is what we try to do.
Women tell stories differently from men. I mean, everybody tells stories different from the other, but it's important to get women's voices out there. You know, A, to tell the kind of stories that attract women, are important to women, and also because, well, the people telling the stories will be making money. It's important that women make their own money, you know, control their own, you know, pension funds. It's important in that regard. So I'm all for getting more women, not just in front of the camera, but behind the cameras, especially, you know, in areas like editing and all of that, you know, where at a particular stage in your life, you're probably raising children and all of that. It just fits, you know, so then you're not running from place to place. You really are, you're hunkered down, cutting and creating great stories, you know. So, and I've learned through the years to find different ways to do the things that are important. And one of the things I say to women these days, that, you know, I've gone through different phases. There were phases where I denied, you know, my femininity because I thought that to succeed, you had to be more man-like. Oh, it's the worst thing ever. I love being a woman, you know, and the older that I've gotten, the more I've realized that, yes, it's okay to be a woman in any form. Your femininity comes out. There isn't one way to be a woman, but there are There is one way to be human, and that's a dignified way to be human. And it's important to be human at all times. For me, everything that I've done that has been termed activism has been a natural human reaction to something that I feel needed correction. So like the way Fela put it, you know, when he was saying that if you grow up in a country like Nigeria or you live in Nigeria and you see so much happening, there's no way you will not put that into your art, into your work, you know, unless you really feel no true connection with the people.
As you sit down here at this moment, what is going through your mind watching this crowd? Did you expect this kind of turnout?
Well, it's going to grow bigger. We are expecting more Nigerians to take their destiny into their hands. This is not CPC matter at all. This is Save Nigeria Group. We have to save it before we can change it.
Let's put a bit of perspective into it, because this has happened before. People keep saying it's unprecedented. What is different is that we didn't have the sort of people-led media, you know, to broadcast, the technology to broadcast and also aggregate the force of the people together. That's because true. I remember during the 93 struggle, it was the Abiola era. Not only did people come out, middle class Nigeria didn't come out as much as ordinary people then, but people came out, and I recall that Abacha single-handedly murdered hundreds of people, mowed them down, he killed them. You know, I mean, that's part of the reason people became, you know, scarred and scared. You know, so Occupy Nigeria was great, you know, because for me personally, it was a citizenship. And it was strange because people think I call people, no, I heard what had been done. I had actually just finished the 1st of January show, the charity show I do every year. And I was driving home and I heard the news and something popped in my head. I just was like, enough. You know, and what I felt about it was like, aside from, we can go into the economic arguments, which have all been broken down because we knew it was never about that. But for me, it was like, it was callous. You could not, nowhere in the world, nowhere, and I repeat, recently the UK, they tried to increase, you know, petrol tax, I think, by 1%, and everybody went up in arms. So you were going to increase it by 118 or thereabout percent overnight in a fragile economy. You know, it just took on an energy of its own. I recall that even the documentation of it was my partner in London who saw me. I think he saw me on CNN or something, and then he called me and said, if you are going to get caught, if you are going to get shot, if you are going to get killed, at least let me be there filming it. You know, and so we had to take that decision, you know, that as filmmakers, we also do not want to be accused of being too subjective. So we took the decision that, you know, we're going to cut me out of it, you know, and just document it as it was happening. And so we're not only filming on the street, and I was marching also, we're also then attending the different meetings, you know, so not just one group or the other. And I could tell you a fascinating story of what I think happened, you know, what we could learn from that, because it will happen again. You know, and it was beautiful that the middle class in Nigeria, and for the first time ever, rose. What would be nice next time is if they send you home, you come back the next day, and you come back the day after, and the day after, and you keep going until they stop. Yesterday, incidentally, I thought about it yesterday, and I said to myself that, you know, I've come to that stage where I don't want to waste days. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste moments. At this point in my life, I don't want to do anything that is not going to be creatively fulfilling and give me joy. I do not want to be around people who are going to not get that, you know, as much as possible. So that's one of the things, because, you know, I mean, just before I came here, a close friend of mine just dropped dead. Just woke up in the morning. His wife said he couldn't breathe, and we buried him just before I came. And he was 47, I'm 41. You know, so I'm thinking, I don't have that. I've lost that. You know, when you're young, you think you are infallible and invincible, and you're never going to die. I am staring my mortality down, and so I'm not going to waste time, waste moments. I intend to grow old, 80-year-old woman in the Remy Lagos kaftan with red lipstick. That's my dream. You know, talking with young people about films, but every day towards that date, I'm going to make it worth something.